What's up, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Goal Line Dynasty. Today, Tyler and I each have three guys that are absolute must-buys in our Dynasty leagues right now. Before we get into the video, Tyler, how we doing, buddy?
That was very graceful of you, my friend. Real good. Good to connect with you. Excited to talk about some of these guys. Late round dudes.
Yeah, and normally I would edit the beginning of that out, but you know what? It's just going to have to stay in. But let's jump into the video. Tyler, I'm going to kick it off first here. My first must-buy guy, probably to nobody's surprise if you've been paying attention to any of our videos, is going to be Brandon Aiyuk. Brandon Aiyuk, according to Keep Trade Cut, is worth the 110 in Superflex leagues, and I think that is an absolute smash at that pick. Anyone that's going to be there at 1010, I promise you I would rather have Brandon Aiyuk over any of those guys right now. He finished as the wide receiver 15 in 2022, and over the second half of 2021, he was the wide receiver 16, right? So we're getting really consistent play from him, despite, not really having a concrete answer at the quarterback position in San Francisco. Brandon Aiyuk has been really resilient through that time, and he's proven that he is a legitimate wide receiver too for fantasy purposes. My favorite thing about him is that if you're in a startup right now, I was looking at Sleeper's ADP a little bit earlier, and he's being drafted as the wide receiver 31 right now. And that just doesn't make sense. 1.5 seasons straight of finishing wide receiver 16 or better, and he's going at the wide receiver 31. He's only entering his fourth year. I mean, there's a lot to like about Aiyuk. He had the same exact target share as Deebo Samuel last year when they were both healthy. He's improved 3 seasons in a row. The 49ers love him. They're already talking, contract extensions. And yeah, there's no reason to be fading Brandon Aiyuk. I think he's going to have himself a nice breakout year this year. And that's following up on his 2022 season where he had over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. So Brandon Aiyuk at cost is one of my favorite players in all of Dynasty right now.
Yeah, he said ranked as a wide receiver 34. He finished as a top 15 guy last year with, quarterback carousel going on. So really love it. My first guy is going to be Treylon Burks. He's currently valued as a wide receiver 25. That's considered equal to the 109 according to Keep Trade Cut. I would give the 109. That's basically Zay Flowers or Zach Charbonnet. I'd give either of those guys for Treylon Burks, maybe Devon A-Chain, but any of those guys, yeah, I'm giving that for Treylon Burks. I'm buying him. I think he can ascend into that tier of top 15 dynasty wide receivers this coming year. He's set up to be a target monster. So Treylon Burks is going to be my guy. I know like a lot of people say buy low on just the second year receivers that didn't produce, but so I'm going to try to fade that for the rest of the video. But yeah, I love Treylon Burks.
Yeah, I love that call there. Treylon's going to step in this year. We don't know what's going to happen at quarterback, but he should have a pretty big year. And if he can actually stay healthy this time around, could see a nice little breakout from him, especially being that big bruising type back that he can be. Moving into my second guy here, I got Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders, according to the consensus, is only worth the 112. And if I have to send my last pick in the first round for Miles Sanders, I'm 1,000% going to do it. I've gone on the record over the last few videos, really banging the table for Miles Sanders and stating that he could be this year's Josh Jacobs, right? You look at Carolina and you think to yourself, okay, well, this has been a team that has been a fantasy goldmine for the running back position. And not even just Christian McCaffrey. Mike Davis a few years ago was amazing. Deontay Foreman last year was amazing. Chuba Hubbard even had a couple good seasons. I know it's a completely new coaching staff here, but make no mistake, this team is still going to run the ball and run the ball quite a lot, especially with a rookie quarterback coming in. So they are going to have to lean on that run game. And the one thing about Miles Sanders that is just so incredibly underrated is his ability to catch passes. When he was coming in as a rookie from Penn State, he was being drafted, and we all thought that he would have some sort of pass catching role in year one, and he did. He had 60 targets with the Philadelphia Eagles as a rookie, and since then it was just a gradual decline, right? This is an aspect of his game that Frank Reich knows how to use. He will use Miles Sanders as intended, and I think that I would be very surprised to see him have less than that 60 targets. So give him 60 targets, give him the lion's share of those backfield touches. It's going to be all systems go for Miles Sanders in 2023. And if I'm sending a late first round pick to get that, whether I'm contending or rebuilding, I'm going to take a piece of Miles Sanders.
Yeah, whenever I punt the running back position early and just go quarterback, receiver for the first six, I always grab Miles Sanders. Right in those in like the 5-6 range. But my next guy here, it might shock some people because nobody likes him at all, and probably nobody likes the landing spot whatsoever. But that's why he's a buy low. My guy's going to be Juju here, Juju Smith-Schuster. He's only 26 years old. He finished as the wide receiver 27 in PPR last year. Granted, he is moving from the Chiefs to the Patriots, and that's not usually what you want to see from your wide receivers. But I mean, this is probably the most similar situation he's had to aging Big Ben. Going to Mac Jones. Nobody likes Mac Jones, but he's still a serviceable quarterback, and doesn't get the ball downfield very well. And Juju excels in the underneath routes and the quick passing game. So, granted, I don't think he's going to blow up to be a top 15 receiver like Brandon Aiyuk or like Treylon Burks. I think Juju is still worth a spot on your roster, and he's worth absolutely nothing right now at like the 209. And I would, according to Keep Trade Cut at least, and I would definitely take a shot at Juju for the the last pick of those fourth round running backs. Like I don't really want the 209. I'll take Juju, especially in a PPR format.
Yeah, I like that pick. I've never been super high on Juju, but back in 2018, he was a top 10 wide receiver in PPR. Like, we know that it's well within the range of his outcomes to put together a successful season. And the New England Patriots, I mean, it's a wide open competition at wide receiver. They just paid Juju. He's their highest paid wide receiver. So I would be very surprised if he's not there or not Mac Jones's number one target in 2023. So I do really like that call. Sticking with guys that have a late second round pick or late rookie second round pick value, I'm going to go with Trey McBride as my final must buy here. He was the tight end 10 overall over the last 5 games of the season in 2022. I know that's not a massive sample size, but that's the exact same sample size that people are hyping Chiggy Okonkwo over. And I'm a really big fan of Chiggy Okonkwo, but Trey McBride and him are very similar, but there's a distinct difference. Trey McBride was the first tight end off of the board in the 2022 NFL draft. He was taken, I believe, 55 overall, and he was behind Zach Ertz all of last season. Zach Ertz went down with injury. Trey McBride started getting more opportunities, and he stepped up. He stepped up in a big way, and he was a top 10 fantasy tight end to end the season over those last 5 or 6 weeks. Now, the waters are still a little muddy, right? Zach Ertz is going to be coming back from injury, but he's likely not going to be ready week 1. You can say the exact same thing about Kyler Murray. He's going to be there, but he's not going to be ready week 1. I think Trey McBride is going to have a chance to step up early on in 2023, and if he does really well with the opportunity, he's going to be able to stay on the field. They will roll out 2 tight end sets with Zach Ertz and Trey McBride. So I'm not expecting the world out of him, but I am expecting enough of a breakout to where he is going to be worth more than just the 212 this time next year. So I'm going to buy that. I'm going to invest in the value. And if you're one of those guys that is trying to go out there and acquire a guy like Chiggy Okonkwo, don't send the 204 or 205 for him. Just send the 212 for Trey McBride because you're getting a very similar caliber player.
Yeah, I like Trey McBride. He had a really good end to the year last year, and I actually have him as like a stash on a couple rosters. My last and final guy, another one I love drafting, is James Conner. I think he could be relied on heavily this year in Arizona, especially in Kyler Murray's absence. I mean, if you look at what happened in Week 10 last year after James Conner came back from injury, and he came back in Week 9, but then Kyler got hurt in Week 10. The carries go up by a lot versus what they were in the beginning of the season, and the targets went up slightly, if anything, if at all. Really, they pretty much stayed relatively the same. But he had a really strong end of the year. He's currently ranked as the RB40, and again, equivalent to the 209, just like Juju. And I mean, if I'm considering Juju the wide receiver 54, James Conner the RB50, then I'm just going to go buy them for absolutely nothing and see what points they can bring to my roster. I mean, they will likely be startable in start 10 or beyond, so.
Yeah, I like the call. James Conner was a top 5 running back in 2021, and he was a top 20 running back last year in 2022. And like you said, there's not really a lot of competition in there. They could be leaning on the run pretty heavily. And I think James Conner is going by largely under the radar right now. A very underrated pick. So I do love that call, Tyler. But it's going to do it for us here on Goal Line Dynasty. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.